grappling with this agentic AI stuff because on a good day, it's like a butler that knows how to clean your house. On a bad day, it's like that butler that thinks cleaning your house means burning it down, claiming the insurance to buy a new vacuum cleaner. Long story short, you lack control.
When we're trying to train the machine to basically make an ethical trade-off, like especially on the situation that is stressful. So basically the question is no longer, have you stopped the attack? The question is, who bears the harm when protection itself causing harm?
It all depends on the confidence in that decision. So you have multiple inputs. If all the inputs that you have are indicating that it is truly a malicious attack with, 99% confidence, then you let the system roll with it. But if there is a level of confidence that doesn't meet a certain threshold, I would say human in command, absolutely.
I think the concept of human in the loop, we need to shift it left. What I mean is that when we are talking about the loop, if the loop happened before the attack, certainly 100%. But if the loop is during the attack, especially in the case and the scenario that's millisecond matter, speed of response matter, I don't think that's the best strategy.
When you put something in place that is prescriptive like that, you lose the flexibility to adapt. So I think that that's the wrong thing to do. I think that regulation should be focused on outcomes, and then we should be accountable for driving towards those outcomes.
Some serious music we got going. All right, AV team, do I have my magical slides ready to go as well? I think we do. Once those come up, I will probably try to get this started. All right, so I have exactly 30 minutes. Vaughn, Maryam, Sami, we're going to stick to 30 minutes. But first, I'll set the context for this discussion. It's not a discussion. It's a bit of a rapid-fire round where I put everybody in a small scenario and ask them 4 questions. What would you do? To put it very simply, if I can set the context for you, exactly 1 year ago, we heard something called Grok for government. The DoD in the United States introduced Grok into their government processes. Fast forward 1 year later, and Grok within military is now a reality in the United States, with full access to militarized data, with the idea that they can utilize it in different ways. While certainly Grok may have got people quite shocked within government, and other elements of it as well, I think one thing stands for certain, whether some models are questionable or not, speed seems to be something that is central to all of this. The speed of decisions, speed as the new norm of service, speed as the new line of defense. You've heard about terms AI, agentic AI, etc. And last night at the dinner, someone said something interesting to me. He said, well, I'm grappling with this agentic AI stuff because on a good day, it's like a butler that knows how to clean your house. On a bad day, it's like that butler that thinks cleaning your house means burning it down, claiming the insurance to buy a new vacuum cleaner. Long story short, you lack control. From human in the loop to human in command, the next 28 minutes will be a scenario where on the screen, a very short scenario will pop up. And then I'm going to ask you, as well as the audience, if you want to chime in, if I can see you, what you would do. But before I begin that, Vaughn, I'll start off with you. Very quickly, what is one thing about AI that has you particularly interested?
So one of the things that I find really interesting is the idea of social engineering the large language models. We saw the report from Anthropic where they talked about how their model had been social engineered and then abused to attack others. That kind of concept where we're dealing with AI that has social networks and can be social engineered is of concern to me. Yeah.
Fair enough, and I think in the age of Claudebot, that is something that we will want to unpack. Thank you, Vaughn. Sami, long time no see. Welcome back on stage. One thing about AI from your federal perspective that has you going, I don't know how long I want to continue this job.
No, I want to continue this job,
Fair
but
enough.
one thing I worry about is the security of AI. So that's the flip side of not all the advantages that it brings to the conversation, but the scary bits that can put us at risk.
Fantastic, and the way you said that, I recall at one of the Operation Defend the Norths, George, if he's in the room right now, George mentioned something very powerful. He said it's one thing to use AI for security, quite the other to have security for AI.
Yeah.
So I like that one, Sami. Thank you. And Maryam, you've been a previous award winner as well. You have had an illustrious career in the finance sector, a leader of women in tech. Thank you for joining us. From your perspective, I think you have something to say that will lead us right into the simulation. Go ahead.
Of course, I think I agree with my peers here on the panel. Securing AI for sure is very fascinating. But what is fascinating to me the most is when we're trying to train the machine to basically make an ethical trade-off, like especially on the situation that is stressful. So basically the question is no longer, have we stopped the attack? The question is, who bears the harm when protection itself causing harm?
Fair enough. A risk-based answer that you provided us with, and I think this is one of those scenarios where risk becomes central to it, and how much risk you're willing to take on. So all of you on your screen, you can see something called, the scenario is the Arctic chill, building off of what was done in the previous session.
It's not up yet.
A very simple, you can see it right there, but I'll read it out for you.
No, it's not up on the...
It's not yet up. AV team, it should be coming up anytime soon. The slides, please, if you can get those up. I'm pretty sure that
There we go.
now it is working, and I'm pretty sure it is my incompetency that resulted in that, but anyways, we can deal with that at a later time. So here's the scenario that we're dealing with. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I'll just summarize it in simple terms. It's January. It's minus 35 degrees Celsius across the prairies, very balmy. Your AI-driven security system detects a lightning-fast ransomware attack infiltrating through the operational network. The AI logic says, to stop the spread, this would save the provincial or territorial grid in this case, but would instantly knock out power to all of the remaining communities, especially 3 indigenous communities, leaving them in life-threatening conditions as you are in the midst of a cold snap. So here's your situation, and I'm watering it down to make it very simple. You're getting hit. Your AI system, whatever that may be, name it whatever you want, is saying shut everything down to prevent lateral movement. Your human agents are going, well, give us a little bit of time. So here's my first question, and it's popped up onto the screen. If the AI system acts in milliseconds, but your response team is 2,000 kilometers away on a laggy satellite link, is human in the loop a real strategy? Now, I'm open to taking any shout-outs from the crowd, but, Maryam, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Sure. Is human in the loop, or as I called it, human in command, a real strategy? What would you do in this situation?
I think the concept of human in the loop, we need to shift it left. What I mean is that when we are talking about the loop, if the loop happened before the attack, certainly, 100%. But if the loop is during the attack, especially in the case and the scenario that's millisecond matter, speed of response matter, I don't think that's the best strategy. So I would say that we need to look at the concept as human on the loop when we are designing the system, when we are defining the policy. For example, what is the acceptable level of loss, what is the protected community, all of those things as a policy and risk factor. And then we keep human out of the loop when we're coming at the execution under predefined guideline.
Fair enough. But Maryam, by the time we've had this conversation, the attacker has probably moved laterally, and we have a situation. I appreciate the answer. It's great context. But Vaughn, from your perspective, What would you do at this situation? Would you say, yes, nope, accept what the AI is saying? Or will you consider the really profound advice that Maryam just gave us?
So I'm going to take a step back and say, where the heck is your business continuity plan? When did you do your tabletop exercise? We just listened to the whole panel talk about these things. We shouldn't be in this situation in the first place. But given that, let's talk about what does it mean to have a human in the loop? Is human in the loop meaning human bottleneck? Or does human in the loop mean that you're part of the process in terms of analyzing, preparing, and then going back and reviewing and addressing it later? So from my perspective, you should have done all that stuff in advance, and you let that thing go because the reason you have that in there is for the speed. So you just let it go.
All right, anybody contradicts what Vaughn just said? I'm open to taking any shout-outs. If there are any, feel free. Absolutely, go for it. Not really. The whole point is that it could happen. We don't know. But one thing we know for certain is that if we let this go on for more than 15 minutes, yeah, we'll probably be out of power.
So you're asking if the human needs to make a decision right now to actually shut down all the systems and keep them isolated and potentially restartable, or whether the attacker shuts down the systems in 15 minutes anyway and keeps control of them themselves.
Not quite. The idea is that the AI loop is telling you, shut it down right away. The human agents are saying, no, let's wait for a little bit more. So who do you listen to? Do you take the AI's recommendation, or do you hear what your human team has to say? That's where the question is.
If the systems are going down anyway.
Fair enough. All right, that's a good answer. If the systems are going down anyways. Sami, from your perspective, thank you for that. From a federal standpoint, what do you do in this situation?
Well, first of all, we should have thought about this scenario before it happens. So, it shouldn't be the first time you wake up and say, oh my God, I have to make an ethical choice between one of two things. But the other thing is, it all depends on the confidence in that decision. So you have multiple inputs. If all the inputs that you have are indicating that it is truly a malicious attack with, I don't know, 99% confidence, then you let the system roll with it. But if there is a level of confidence that doesn't meet a certain threshold, I would say human in command, absolutely. Because we're still not in a point where we will delegate, irrespective of the confidence in the decision making, anything to AI.
All right, fair enough. Well, once again, anybody wants to chime in, simply just shout out. Oh, I see a hand up there. That's Mirza from the exotic city of Bowmanville. Go ahead. You're getting a new Go train. Congratulations. In 2060.
So I think when we talk about the AI, it's not about just the automation. It's not about just in your scenario that you're using AI. In any scenario, there is an element of human to make a decision or to verify that it's there. So you cannot eliminate the human factor. And again, whatever you are protecting, it's all about human first. And somewhere system is secondary. Okay. You have to protect human first. Or again, it's whatever you are protecting, if you're not able to protect the humans, the system, there's the point.
I'll take that. You are validating the outputs that come from AI, but time is of the essence. Nonetheless, Maryam, thank you for setting a right framework for that, and Vaughn and Sami, thank you for going into a little bit of the tactical. However, as with any situation, the CEO and legal have come back from vacation almost instantaneously. And it'll pop up on the screen very shortly. I might be doing something wrong, but I'll read out the question here. This is question 2, and I'm looking for a very, very straightforward answer. Imagine I am that annoying CEO who does absolutely nothing, but I've come into the house with legal. And here's my question. If the AI saves the grid, but causes a physical safety crisis in a remote community or communities, who stands before a House of Commons committee to explain that? You, your software vendor, or your AI, perhaps? Sami, you're the federal person. Save us. That's why you're here.
Sure. I'll say the CEO has to take the fall for that one.
Well, CEO is not prepared for that. That's going back on vacation. But
His energy company engineered it in such a way that they have to end up in a situation where there is an ethical decision that they haven't thought of, or that they have thought of and designed it in such a way that if I save Toronto, I have to sacrifice a northern community. If that's how they engineer their whole grid, then they have to take the fall for it, and they have to explain it to the committee.
All right, fair enough. I know that there are a couple of folks in this room who have been in situations like this, and as much as I'm trying to make light of it, it is a very real situation in terms of what sometimes gets designated as collateral damage.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate you, Sami, bringing that back full circle. Maryam, can I come to you at this situation? He said the CEO, I'm on the CEO's side and going back on vacation. Who would you point to?
Definitely you are. The reason is that we designed the system. We put this principle in place. We made a risk-based decision which, based on the policy, fed to the system. So if we look at it, is that when we are talking about the concept like this, we are technically fed or encoded ethical judgment into a machine. So it wasn't just a technology problem anymore. We are talking about human value, we are talking about policy governance, and we are talking about security engineering. So you can't blame technology. The whole system design and implementations come from the organization.
Fair enough, but Vaughn, I got to bring this one to you, and I respect that, Maryam, 100%. But Vaughn, look, as a CISO, you signed off on this tool being deployed.
I never signed off on that.
In this scenario, you have. Well, you did, or at least someone on your team signed off. But as we've seen in the last couple of years, the amount of liability that we take on as individual professionals in the field. In a situation like this, one could argue that as the lead from a security perspective, the line starts where you stand. Shouldn't it be the CISO who is going before the House of Commons to explain this?
Yeah. So I would say this, if the CISO had responsibility for determining the budget, if the CISO had responsibility for the business continuity plan and did not put anything in place in terms of network segmentation, in terms of backups, in terms of manual overrides, in terms of having communication better than a weak satellite connection, those kinds of things, absolutely, it would be the CISO. But let's be real. The CISO doesn't have the ability to determine their own budget. They don't have the means to move all that stuff. I'm not responsible for operations. I can't force them to have manual overrides, but the CEO can. And so to me, it's squarely on the CEO, and I'm sure that the regulators would find it that way as well.
Fair enough. Sami, absolutely you can.
I mean, this scenario can happen even without AI. This can happen today. So there's a decision made in a control room of an energy company that they need to shut it down, and in shutting it down, there is a collateral damage somewhere. So, the AI adds an element of speed to it, but all that to say is that, we can face that decision today without AI being in the loop as opposed to a human being in the loop, like entirely based on human decision. And if the decision is today, I need to shut down the grid, or I need to isolate the grid and there's collateral damage, that's how the network has been engineered, and that's how it has to live with the consequences.
Now, I will say this. If you did not raise those concerns to anyone, yeah, somebody's going to come back after you. But if you've raised those concerns and the decision was made, no, we don't want to spend that money, no, we've got these other priorities, then absolutely it's completely in the CISO or CEO's realm.
Fair enough. We'll take that. Any opposing thoughts in the crowd? I see it. 2 hands all the way at the back. The gentleman who laughed a little bit louder, you go first. They have to figure it out on their own because I don't know who laughed louder. Go for it.
I think the question is more about the accountability. And where Vaughn gave the answer is where everybody resonates. You cannot put the accountability on a system or a software. We are the designer of it, so whoever, as Vaughn mentioned, in some cases, or in legal way, it's mostly CEO who's taking all those decisions to run with those kind of things. So that is basically my input on that one.
Fair enough. It's a question of personal accountability. Thank you for that. Is there another comment? Yes, go ahead.
So actually, an extension of exactly that, it's you can't outsource accountability. You can't fully delegate accountability.
Okay. Can't outsource accountability. I was thinking about bringing somebody from the board to go and face the House of Commons, but nobody from the board is answering. Anyways, with that said, we have about, how long do we have left? Just over 10 minutes, and we have 2 more questions. Thank you all for your participation. We'll keep that going. So let's assume you survived the House of Commons, you're still in a job, and now we're having a bit of another discussion. Should we legally mandate hard stops that prevent AI from touching life safety systems, even if that means guaranteed total encryption by a hacker? Vaughn, your thoughts?
So one of the problems with regulation is it typically lags the changes in the environment and the technology and everything. So when you put something in place that is prescriptive like that, you lose the flexibility to adapt. So I think that that's the wrong thing to do. I think that regulation should be focused on outcomes. And then we should be accountable for driving towards those outcomes. I know that even with the, in rail, we have these regulations from the United States with the TSA security directives that drive a lot of things for us. And some of those are fairly prescriptive, but we have some ability to look at alternate controls. And the reality is we're trying to drive for outcomes. And it forces you to go back and look at, okay, have I done a test of these controls to validate that they work the way they're supposed to? Have I done the right design for the risks that we're accepting and looking at? Those are all part of the whole process, and you really need to drive the regulations to make sure that people are taking those steps and not say, oh, you shall not or you cannot, because then you end up putting things into the position where the whole territory is out. And there's not a whole lot that can be done at that point. And you put the company in a good position to say, hey, the regulators did this to us.
Fair enough. I'll take that. Maryam, will go to you, and then to Sami. Maryam.
Yeah, I do agree with Vaughn. I think I don't like the hard no. If we go with that mindset, we are creating predefined and predictable barrier. And if we are looking at from a standpoint of the attacker, this is exactly when they try to explore, when they try to cross. So I don't like that design mindset. I would say that instead of mandating the hard stop or hard no to the system or a machine, we mandate the resiliency by design. So back to your scenario, we had 2 options, like freeze the community and break the province. If we didn't think about any other options, that's a design failure, that's a policy gap, not the necessary AI and technology.
Fair enough. There is a policy gap here, and I'll work with that as well. Policy as a critical control in security. Sami, your perspective.
I mean, across many sectors, it will be difficult to come up with one single way to describe a hard stop. But in many of our everyday interactions, there are manual overrides, and that has to be part of the design to say, for whatever reason, I mean, not necessarily because AI is making a decision that we don't like, but there could be safety concern that you have to have a manual override to take over. So from that perspective, I would say that has to be part of the design of the system, that there is at some point a way to press the big red button and manual override the flow of the process. But I agree with Vaughn that putting that in regulation will be fairly challenging because you'll have to come up with a hard stop for every sector, for every scenario, for aviation, for transportation, for telecommunication, for finance, and all these things. So I think every sector has to think of its own process workflow, and where they feel that they need some sort of manual override, then so be it.
Fair enough. Now, for someone who does have my number, texted me directly and texted me 3 or 4 times with a question that I'll reword a little bit, but I think it was targeted at you specifically. I'll reword it and hopefully I've caught the gist of it. It's not coming up on the screen, but I'm going off memory here. Sami, in terms of the tools that we deploy in mission-critical systems, like the power grid, does the federal government look at doing some sort of sandboxing or testing to approve certain tools that you can use? Now, that might be overstepping to some degree, but given all of the talk that we're now seeing about from Minister Solomon, that we're now seeing about AI repositories and registers, is there some sort of future where you see certain products almost getting licensed, a green blessing, to go and be deployed in mission-critical environments? Your thoughts?
The closest we can come to that sort of thought process is with Bill C-8 that will require designated entities in those 4 federally regulated sectors to have cybersecurity plans that the Cyber Center gets to review. So part of the review process will be for the companies, the bank, the energy provider, to submit to the regulator, who will then share it back with the Cyber Center, their cybersecurity plans, and go through it and say, yeah, that looks good, or no, there's some gaps here or there. But I don't see it as we don't like the fact that you use the software, or we don't like your architecture. I mean, who are we to be able to be in a position to appreciate how a grid works or how a transportation company works? So you know your network more than we will ever know. We know the threat. We can share with you what are the latest threat. How it maps to the networks has to be a partnership, and that's where my message is. It's like we need to keep that dialogue open, but I don't see us reviewing. There will be an element of in Bill C-8 to ban high-risk vendors from Canada. So, and the minister has signaled that, you know, part of the process will be to ban, for example, Huawei and ZTE in due time when the bill passes. There might be other high-risk vendors that, based on our assessment, need to be banned, and in that case, the energy company or whatever will have to figure out how to decouple that high-risk vendor from their architecture. But it's not going to be, let's sit down with you, pull up your architecture, and look at everything that you have on your network.
Fair enough, but Sami, with all due respect, I respect the position as well. You mentioned Huawei and high-risk vendors, then immediately to my mind, Carney's visit to China comes up, and what opportunities are these going to ferment? I don't know, but they did use burner phones there. So I guess it's still, security is still top of mind. We have a couple of more minutes to go, and I'll go to the final question. And this one is just to have a little bit of fun, and I'll obviously start in this case with Vaughn, and then we'll go this way and come to a conclusion. And again, if anybody has any comments, now is the time to potentially jump in. I had to throw this question in because, you know, why not? And I clearly wrote all these questions myself. No ChatGPT was used. How will we know when a cybersecurity AI is truly Canadian? Is it when it apologizes to the hacker while blocking them? Or when it refuses to reboot during a gold medal hockey game? Captain Vaughn, you have some connections to the US as well, but putting that aside, what makes AI and security truly Canadian?
J'habite à Montréal et la correcte réponse, c'est quand il parle français et le même anglais, c'est canadien.
That's it.
Well said. My response is, très bien, I agree with you, my friend. And I will make sure that I watch the recording, but I did get the gist of what you just said, and I do agree with you, Vaughn. And Vaughn, I would extend this also to suggest the importance of engaging indigenous communities with what technologies you are deploying, how decisions are being made, is essentially critical. In my own PhD work, looking at something as simple as identity access management and how it deploys within a community where an elder has right over those who live there, how your IAM protocols play out as well becomes a very critical conversation. So I love the way you frame that, and I'll just add on to that and say the indigenous element as well is extremely important. Maryam, from your perspective, what makes AI in cybersecurity, or just AI in general, Canadian?
I think, of course, when it's governed by Canadian law, and also when Canadian value is embedded and encoded to the design principle of the solution. And also when we define the policy and define it as a risk-based, workflow through the whole system. So we are talking about Canadian value like fairness, transparency, inclusivity. When we are talking back to about your scenario, identifying the vulnerable community and define it through the system and add it to one of the factors when you come into the risk-based decision when the action needs to be taken based on the risk. So I think these are the elements that makes the AI Canadian. I think Canadian AI is not just polite, it's responsible.
Fair enough. People, process, technology, and in that order, I do have something. I will use what you said to close us off as well. But Captain Sami, you were here from the beginning of the day. I'll give you the final word in terms of what makes it truly Canadian. What will allow you to grant AI Canadian citizenship?
When it uses A at the end of every sentence.
When it uses A at the end of
But no, kidding aside, I would say everything Maryam said, but also when it speaks the language of Canadians, and I don't mean just English and French, but the indigenous communities. We started to publish some cybersecurity advice in some of the Aboriginal languages, so we need to do more of that. But also when there's investments in the Canadian ecosystem, in universities, in research, and when it's trained on Canadian data, to me, and it passes the Canadian citizenship test, and maybe at the end we'll give it the maple leaf on its lapel pin.
Fair enough. A very diplomatic but fun answer as well. From my perspective, I really don't know. But the one thing I can tell you is there's a lot of fear with how these agentic AI tools make decisions. But I wear these rings pretending to be like I'm Thanos, so it gives me the feeling that I can command AI when to stop, but that's really about it. With that said, not only do I want to thank you, but I want to remind everyone that for the rest of the day, you'll get to engage with a lot of these speakers across multiple breakout sessions. I encourage you to participate, meet with all of the partners, vendors, and sponsors who have made today possible, and have solutions and have case studies for you to walk through. I believe this time around they have demo zones as well, or demos that are happening at a certain time. I encourage you to participate and throw these questions at them as well. As I've said before, AI is not merely another software in your register. It is another part of your organization chart, another member of your org chart. Treat it as such, recognize the risk that comes with something as living as these AI models that we're beginning to see. And in the age of, Claudebot, I think that reality of AI becoming part of your org chart is very, very real. I remember Vivek, in December, Vivek Kendria mentioned that at a speech, he heard someone say, for every one human agent in your office, there are 10 AI agents roughly supporting that individual. Let that sink in, and with that, I wish you a wonderful rest of the conference, and please join me in thanking Vaughn, Maryam, and Sami for a wonderful, quick discussion, and thank you all as well.